Let's take a look at the third chapter of the Tao Te Ching. But first, do take a moment to find that red subscribe button. Give that bad boy a click. Then find the icon in the shape of a bell and click that so that you'll be notified the next time I upload a video. This is an adaptation of Stephen Mitchell's translation of the Tao Te Ching, which is attributed to the sage Lao Tzu. Let's jump right in. Tao Te Ching, Chapter 3. If you overesteem great men, the people become powerless. If you overvalue possessions, the people begin to steal. Let us imagine an adult standing in front of us and we see his profile or her profile. They could lean forward, they could lean back, or they could be centered. Leaning back would be a very delightful physical representation of revulsion or aversion or hate or fear or dread, whereas looming forward could be a wonderful way of representing greed or desire or hope. We begin the first portion of the third chapter of the Tao Te Ching exploring that how overvaluing either individuals or objects disempowers the people. Whenever we are pulled off center, whether shoved back in fear or aversion, or pulled forward into greed, desire, or hope, we are off center. As you've heard me say, probably many times, the three treasures of the Tao are simplicity, patience, and compassion. What is this simplicity? Centered spontaneity. Without centering, without developing centering as a skill, no less mastering it as a habit, we stand no chance whatsoever of becoming the peaceful, happy, hopeful sage we long to be. Let's continue with our reading. The sage leads by emptying people's minds and filling their cores. Core is a metaphor for our intuition. So let us return to our definition of simplicity. Many times you've heard me contrast yang with yin. Yang, two extremes of yang would be scatteredness or contrivance. The yin's antidote for scatteredness is centering, and yin's antidote for contrivance is spontaneity. Let's look at the first one, the second one. When we are contriving, we are indulging our inner control freak, that intention to make things happen rather than allow things to naturally unfold. The sage helps his students get out of the small confining prison cell of over-analysis and helps them to center and be more intuitive. Einstein recognized the need for both intellect as well as creativity. It has been posited that when creativity is the slave of the intellect, not much is accomplished. But when the opposite happens, when our intellect becomes the servant of our creativity, great things happen. Genius is accessed. Let's continue. By weakening their ambition and toughening their resolve, the same thought is continued. By getting us out of contrivance, or what perhaps the Christian New Testament would describe as self-will. Perhaps if you've studied Matthews 4, 5, and 6, you remember the Lord's Prayer from Sermon on the Mount, where we read, "Not my will, but thy will be done." So upon various spiritual paths, the danger of self-will and the benefit of acquiescing to a deeper and broader perspective than our own is praised. Let's continue. He helps people lose everything they know, everything they desire, and creates confusion in those who think that they know. Yes, this could seem petty and superficial, and there are many self-important buffoons who think themselves deeply spiritual by speaking in riddles designed to confuse people. However, in this context, it's something completely different. Once again, where the sage in this context is helping to free people from the present cell of self-will, of being a prisoner of their preconceptions. If atherosclerosis is hardening of the arteries, then perhaps psychosclerosis is hardening of the attitudes. I think it was Suzuki Roshi who talked about beginner's mind where all things are possible, and that one must, if one hopes to accomplish Satori from his point of view, one must maintain a beginner's mind. We see this idea here that it is through, just as a butterfly must extricate itself from the confines of its chrysalis, likewise, you and me need to escape from the present cell of our preconceptions and our assumptions. Let's continue. Oopsie. That works much better. Practice not doing and everything will fall into place. What is meant by not doing? Does that mean that if we lie on our sofas, eating fast food and watching Netflix, everything will work out optimally? Probably not. We have to remember that in ancient Chinese, we did not have an alphabet like we do in the West. We had pictograms, which lend itself to simile and metaphor. Practice not doing means that by freeing ourselves from the habit energy of being manipulative and contrived and striving to make things happen, by gaining the skill of entering into centered spontaneity and making it such a habit that we practice it spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively, that we will notice that the greatest good is spontaneously accomplished on its own. What a marvelous idea to roll around the tongue of our minds. If you've enjoyed this video, do give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends on social media. If you would like to participate in a live weekly webinar, well, you will learn the meditative techniques of Gautama the Buddha, as well as the philosophies of Lao Tzu the sage, then use one of the links below and register. Until next we speak, may you and yours be healthy and happy.